it. But let's move on. Carbon, did you have anything particularly you wanted to talk about?
I don't know.
Okay, if you don't, this is going to be the last segment. I'm not even going to stop it because it kind of falls in line with the horror genre that we're talking about. I want to know from you guys, and you may not have one because I'm a horror fan. Like, I like horror movies, but I want to know what's you guys' what horror movie do you guys think is underrated that you don't think enough people have seen, and that you think is scary or intriguing or interesting, and you think more people should have seen it? Starting with you, Big O.
Well, it's not really what do you call it? A movie. It's a video game. Like always was.
I'll go with that one. I'll go with that.
Okay.
What's it called?
Legacy of Kain. Soul Reaper.
Defiance.
Yeah, man.
Legacy of Kain.
It's like
Soul Reaper.
Yeah, man. Because the backstory, man.
This is about vampires,
really interesting,
right?
Man. Yeah. And the guy, I think it's Dracula. No, it's Kain. I'm sorry, it's Kain. But it's like, but it's like when you really see what Kain's motives is and stuff like that, it's like, okay, you kind of feel for him. Like, you see what he was trying to do. It's kind of like that. He's not just evil just to be evil. It's a reason why he was doing that, and it's like more depth to it. And like, I played that game when I was in some sort of high school, but then like just recently, I was able to actually start, looking to like the back lore of the actual game, and even like of the Kain versions and stuff of it. But like Raziel, like he was he surpassed basically like his his father and stuff like that. And I guess it was said that, hey, one of your sons will surpass, evolve into something better than you, and he knew that. So then that's why he throws him into the abyss. But it's like he did that because he knew he had to do that in order to, I guess, transform his son in order for them to be able to take on the real evil or whatever his plan was.
Without getting into too much of the minutia, I will say I remember when me and Demetrius were younger, Demetrius would talk about, Mutundo83 would talk about this game a lot and how interesting and how compelling the story was. Yeah. I even watched a video not too long ago about people talking about the storytelling in this game, and I hear it's top notch.
Yeah.
But
it's real good. Go
ahead, Mutundo.
Big O had it down. It's the problem. The problem that I had with this series is the way they ended it is like left you wanting more.
Yeah.
And then nothing. Nothing. Like Eidos and Crystal Dynamic, they combine and they start putting out Tomb Raider movies every 3 minutes. And I was like, where's Legacy of Kain?
I mean, because this was on a cliffhanger. And I remember when the Soul Reaver 2 was supposed to come out, but then it just got canceled. I had pre-order and everything. They said, they canceled. I'm like, what?
Do you guys?
So it's like it's a cliffhanger.
Before I ask this question, I'm going to move on to Carbon. Have you? Because you're a big gamer. You're definitely more of a gamer than I am. You're probably the biggest gamer on the panel right now. Have you ever heard of this game? Have you ever played it?
No.
You never even heard. You've never even heard of it.
It's a roll of the dice, buddy. You better get on the game, son.
Well, I mean, this is like original Xbox, like or something. I'm going to say I have not seen this game before.
Yeah, it probably is.
Like the overall premise is
PlayStation 1.
Well, the exactly. That's why I can't play this game. What are you talking about, bro? Like, this one to get ported over nowadays. Well, they don't report most games.
The coolest thing about this game is fate. Like, can you change your fate? And that's Kain's whole MO through all for the games. Blood Over 2, Soul Reaper 1, 2, 5 games in Defiance. And like, he has an interesting quote in the game where, like, if you flip a coin 100 times, right, and 999 times it lands on one side, there's that rare chance that it'll land standing up. And so you can change your fate. And the last scene of because you have to play the games in a certain order too. Because you have to play Soul Reaper 1, like Blood Omen, then you have to play Soul Reaper, then go back to Blood Omen 2, then Soul Reaper 2, then Defiance. So, and at the end of Defiance, you find out all these revelations happen, and then you find out who the true enemy is, and then They go, nothing. I'm like, oh,
nothing.
man.
I'm like, what? I mean, but interesting fact though, because like
sometimes
all
the
of
reality, you can't do anything. That's sometimes the sad reality.
But like an interesting fact, because in Soul Reaper, you had to battle all his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you counted one of the brothers, you don't fight. You know why? I found this interesting fact. The reason why you don't fight them because they couldn't get the gaming mechanics right in the game to actually for you to fight them, so they just left them out. So you never got to fight one particular brother.
Hold on, guys. I'm gonna read this real quick. It says Square no longer believed there was enough of an audience for the series to justify spending so much money and time on it. Ultimately, it seems that a mix of financial issues, lack of audience, low game quality, and bad management led to the cancellation of Legacy of Kain. So I was going to ask you guys this. Do you think there's an audience for maybe because when I hear the story is really rich and the character is really interesting, do you think there's an audience for maybe like a television series, even if it's like a animated TV series? It doesn't have to be live action.
Yes and no.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Matondo.
Because I'll be honest with you, when I hear vampires now, I don't even want to watch the movies. I don't want to watch the series. But something like this, I'd probably watch because I think it just seems much more interesting than what you're seeing. Yeah.
But it would have to, and as much as I couldn't get down with the Witcher first season, it would have to be a time jump back and forth series that you would have to finally get all the keys to puzzle these pieces together at the end. The other thing is they don't look like your stereotypical vampires. And I know we've seen vampires in monsters forms, but these are intelligent creatures. They just evolve. And if they sit there and explain everything thoroughly instead of just throwing information out, this series would be a hit. But they have to stay to the story. That's the biggest problem I have with most TV shows that adapt other media. They'll just sit there and the writers will sit there and go off a tangent. Yeah, it's cool that we know the story. But sometimes we want to see the story in a different medium. Yeah, that's my biggest problem with Marvel.
And I also think though that because of all the big budget movies that are coming out, that are almost like cookie cutter of other movies. Like once Endgame ends, every other superhero movie after that, if it's not as good or on the same level, then you're basically going through the same old motions as the superhero movies. So it's kind of a dying genre, right? But I think wait, let me finish this. But to contrast that with something like Legacy of Kain, even though it doesn't have as big of an audience as say something like Captain America, I think the fact that it's new, it's original, it's a different take on vampires from what I can tell. It has other aspects to it that might be more interesting. I think, man, it might make some money. Even if they did it as a cheaper animated series rather than a full blown live action, it's something different. I'm tired. I'm personally tired of seeing the same old stuff. Yeah. But I want to read this because this right here, people were asking, would you think it would make on Reddit? They were asking, would you think it would make a good animated series? And I want to read this particular comment, mainly because after reading, I just want to punch the guy. But here's what it says. It says, I don't see why it wouldn't work. It's heavy on cutscenes. The story is intriguing and complex enough. It just needs a good writer enough to recreate their Sequipedalian Loquaciousness. Would either of you or any of you care to explain to me what the word Sequipedalian and Loquaciousness means? I think I've heard the word loquaciousness, but I've never in my life
Google would.
Heard the word Sequipedalian. Like what? Like come on, dude.
I don't know.
Let's look at Sequipedalian. All right. It's a formal adjective.
What is
and it's a word polysyllabic, long, characterized by long words, long-winded. Okay, so I guess what he's saying is well, let's look up loquaciousness because he's using that as an adjective. So loquaciousness would be the I guess the state of being. Loquaciousness is the quality of being very chatty or talkative. Your friend's loquaciousness is much more charming during a dinner party than first thing in the morning, when you're either still half asleep. If people comment on your loquaciousness, it means they think you talk a lot. Okay, so instead of just saying the motherfuckers talk a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, he does talk a lot in the game, but it's like that's the telling the story because it's like right when he comes to an area, he'll be like, "I remember this area. This used to be my brother's kingdom part." And it's a lot of talk. It's like, but it's letting the gamer, it's informing the gamer because we don't know. You know what I'm saying? You can't just walk around. And it's like every time he goes to different places, he talks about it, he mentions it and things and stuff like that. No, and I don't think that really hurts the game. It's informing the gamer, man. I mean, I feel like you took that element out.
It's not. And the thing about it, it's not like it's just dialogue. It's a moving, living scene.
Yeah.
When he walks into a place, you actually pan around and you're looking at what he's looking at. It's not my brother lived here, and you got text boxes going at the bottom or a picture just sitting there. No, you see the enemies you have to deal with. Like that first stage, major stage I can remember in Soul Reaper 1 is when you see you fight your brother who adapted to water.
Mm-hmm.
And you see all his spawn and they're swimming in the water and they're explaining like, well, it used to be a cathedral and you'll see all the glass, stained glass in the roof. And it's hinting you on how to beat his brother. He might be immune to water, but like the sunlight still hurts him.
All right, I don't want to get too much into the minutia because you're gonna lose the audience because I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm pretty sure they don't know. They don't know what you're talking about. Let's move on. Hold on. Wait.
There's a thing called YouTube where you can watch the Lucent Troupe every Friday at 8 p.m.
Yeah, but we're gonna move on, and we're gonna say that was Orlando's pick. It's not a movie, it's a game. He would want you to play this horror game. He thinks it's underrated. And apparently, even other people are saying, hey, like, the audience isn't that big. So I think you're probably right. It's probably a little underrated. And I've always heard good things about it. I never particularly cared for the art style, but I've always heard good things about the story and plot and stuff like that. So before we move on, I just want to say that Mr. Mornar of Reddit, you deserve PB's words of the day. Because Sequipedalian and I think I've heard loquaciousness. I just never knew what it meant.